Or not me. What a shock. This is my wonderful daughter, Alethea, and her wonderful mother, my wonderful wife, Amy, and they are tremendously supportive. They're praying for me right now, which is good, because hopefully I won't fall off the stage, crack my neck, and we'll still be able to present tomorrow and Saturday and make it back home to them. They're a big part of my ministry. You guys are going to be hearing more and more about what the Lord is doing in my life over the next couple of days. It's incredibly exciting for me to be here. I think I mentioned this a little bit in my introduction this morning of who I am and what I'm doing. This is the only thing that I've found that Christians are coming together to impact gaming culture together. This is it. So when I say you guys are the theologians, you guys are the thinkers, you guys are the philosophers, you guys are the game makers, you guys are the gatekeepers of the story that's going on right now in culture, not just in America, but worldwide. We'll get more into statistics and all that good stuff later on. You guys are it. So I'm actually here this weekend to learn from you guys. So as we're eating, as we're at the expo arena, as we're walking over the apartments, I'm going to come up to you, I'm going to be incredibly annoying. I'm going to ask you lots of questions. I'm going to ask you theological questions. I'm going to ask you things about your beliefs, where you're from, who your parents were, your psychology. I'm going to ask you what your specialties are, what your gifts are, what your gaming gifts are, what kind of games you like to play. I'm a big League of Legends fan. Anybody out there a League of Legends fan? There you go, a couple of us. The newest gaming figure that came out today was that we've got 70 million players in the League of Legends world, and 32 million of them are active monthly. That has nothing to do with what I'm about to present. That's just so anyway, that'll be tomorrow's big thing. So this is a proposal statement for kind of what I've been doing this summer. I'm going to read it. I'm going to do exactly what you're not supposed to do, which is read the things that you all can read, but we'll do it all together. Once upon a time, it has a familiar ring to it because we all have stories. Maybe it's a mundane story about a particular day's events, or perhaps it's a fantastic escapade, a journey, adventure, and thrill. Regardless, we humans cannot escape the narrative structure of beginning, middle, and end. Christians have their own terms for it. We call it creation, rebellion, redemption, and consummation. And this summer, one daring, fine, and handsome student at Toman Seminary is seeking to apply this grand narrative to the current cultural climate of games and gaming. Within this four-part framework, the greatest stories ever told can be understood. Our stories shape who we are, and we are shaped by who we are. This cycle is a God-given reality. God has made humans to be story makers and story actors that participate in the grand narrative of human history. If this is a story that you want to help tell, get a hold of me. So as we say that, as we move forward, and as we go into our time together, this is kind of the game plan. The game plan is for me to talk at you for a little bit. But it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to be gamers and for us to have all of this research that says people learn by being interactive, and for the next 55 minutes for me to just chat at you. I get plenty of opportunities with that when I'm preaching in shelters, when I'm working with homeless, when I'm working with drug addicts and alcohol addicts in St. Louis. I get lots of opportunities to hear my own voice and then to record it and to hear it back, just because it's great, it's beautiful. That's what we're all narcissists in America anyway. Lots of opportunities to do that. But the thesis that gaming teaches, that gaming is interactive and that interaction is good, that does nothing if I just speak to you for the next hour. So that is not going to be one of the things that we will be doing. We actually will be interacting with one another and learning together, even today, even as we go on, to talk about these things. So here we are for our first presentation of the weekend. We're going to be talking about narratives in games and God's big story. If you find that I'm just randomly tripping up or coughing or hacking up alone, it's because I am. So I apologize for having to say that. I'll be coming here anyway. But if you're in this room because you want to learn about narratives and games and God's big story, and you want to find the rhythm and stories that engage you with heart, mind, and soul, great. You're in the right room. I'm glad we've made it here together. The first thing that we're going to do today is we're going to watch a 1-minute clip. Don't time it, because it may not be 1 minute. One of my favorite games growing up, and it is incredibly nostalgic, and I hope my sound is turned up. And if you get goosebumps, that's cool. You got goosebumps yet? I do. is not a game I've designed. You can ask my wife, my programming capabilities. I use Google Drive, that's about it. This is Red Alert. This is fantastic. I grew up playing all sorts of RTS games. RTS games are the way to go, in my own opinion. I like playing League of Legends. League of Legends is an RTS access to it. Anyway, we can debate that later on. We as human beings get goosebumps when we take part of an epic story. We just do. Anybody here that's read or watched anything by James Cgdc? Broken Reality, TED Talks? All right, so us 3 or 4, we can all have a chat later on. Because, yeah, there you go. Jane McCognible? How do you spell it?
I don't know. But I know what you're talking about now.
MC.
Reality is broken.
Reality is broken. That's all you need to write down. Type that into Google. The 5 of us that have already read that, we can have more conversations later because most of my research and most of the stuff that you're going to be hearing has been inspired by her. But here's the problem, okay? Here's the fundamental problem that I'm finding in my research. All of this stuff that we are doing here this weekend, and we are talking about here as brothers and sisters in the Lord, people are already doing. I don't know if you've heard about it, but the gaming industry is kind of a big deal. People are already thinking about the gaming industry. People are already thinking about storytelling. People are already thinking about what it takes to sell you a product that gets you hooked, that wants you to keep playing it. People are already thinking about it. What's unique about us here at, I'm going to say the acronym wrong because my dyslexia is going to kick in, Cgdc? What we're doing here this weekend is that we're believers interacting with this. Unbelievers have no categories. Unbelievers like Jane, who to my knowledge she's never raised a profession here. So, she's, okay, fantastic. So that's not me saying, you know, her tradition of faith is different than mine, and so she's not a believer. That's just saying I don't think she wants to be known as a believer. She has wonderfully, incredibly good things to say about gaming and what gaming can do for positive change in this world. I agree with most of what she says. But she's not coming at it knowing that we have a good God that made this universe, that made you and me, and that made us to be incredibly involved and participators in that big universe to begin with. She has no category for that. You, brothers and sisters, you do. We do. This is our starting point for this weekend as we go into it. As we start talking about epic story, there's all sorts of questions to ask, like, why do we like epic stories? Why do we want to participate in epic stories? What makes us as humans create epic stories? Why is it that Assassin's Creed, every time it comes out with a new title, keeps selling? Why do we want to keep playing Madden and not backyard kick around football? Why? What's so epic about it? What makes up an epic story? All of these are good questions that we here in the gaming industry, we need to be asking, and we as believers need to be asking. And this is my proposed theory. God has made humanity in His image, and our stories reflect the larger story of God's narrative in history. So as we go around today, we're going to be looking at God's bigger picture, and then we're going to be looking and comparing how that fits in with games in general and with storytelling in general. So we've got a paradigm for this, and our paradigm is story. It's going to be our short word, story. So all stories have a scale of some kind. So this means that they've got a scope, they've got a context, however you want to call it, scale. From the moment you start playing a game, your first level, whether it's your level 1 and you're in Azeroth, and you're going to become part of the biggest and baddest guild the World of Warcraft has ever seen, scale, context, or whether you're sitting there on your phone and you're a little bird and you gotta go kill those pigs. There's a scale, there's context. All stories have scales, have context. I'm just going to be wandering around up here. Maybe we all can pretend that that's okay. The next thing is truth. Stories have truth. The story must be told using relevant truth. Now again, this is my proposition for story and all of the components that make up a good narrative. If you want to argue with me and you want to say, oh Jacob, I thought of something that you haven't included, or I think your thing is crap, that's great. Let's have conversations about that at the expo. Let's have conversations over lunch. Let's talk about it, let's revise it, let's work on it. My theory and my argument here is this is what is part of the grand scale of God's narrative, and we as human beings, we've been made in His image, and because of that, we can't escape this grand narrative. Truth. Story must be told using relevant truths, and the story must relate to how truth is viewed. The next thing is that a story's got to have obstacles. I don't know if you guys have ever heard the story of how was your day, honey? My day was great. Went to work. And I'm home. There's no obstacles in that story. There's scale, there's truth, but there's no obstacles. Yes?
Is this going to be an alliteration?
It will be. It spells out story. Yep. It's gonna be amazing. You're gonna be so surprised. Just wait until it's done, brother. And I've got more for other presentations. It's fantastic. The story must have tension or disequilibrium. This is actually a big key term for our unbelieving friends in the business. When we talk about narrative theory, when we talk about making movies, when we talk about writing scripts, what we call sin or brokenness or hurt or pain, whatever the name that we give for it, obstacles, tension. You want to actually talk to somebody who's not a believer, you use the word disequilibrium, you're going to go a lot farther, because as soon as you mention sin, you've lost it. Hopefully I'm still on the page. There we go. The next thing in all stories is relationships. The story must involve characters that share relationships. There's a progression through stories, not just in the story itself. Honey, how was your day? My day was great. I went to work, I came home. That's progression. There is progression in that story. But character progression is then to say, honey, how was your day? My day was great. I went to work. I came home. How was your day? It's not a very big character progression. And maybe it's a crap example. You want to pull it apart? Great. Let's talk over at the expo. Let's have lunch together. But there's character progression. We now know something about our main character. Not only does he want to talk about himself, we now know that he actually cares about other people. Character progression. Relationships and progression through characters. These are parts of the grand story. As you can see, brother, here's the big surprise. It spells out story. This is our big theory for alliteration, or our big alliteration theory for all grand narratives, for all the stories that we're telling, all of the epic scale games that we play. There are these aspects in the stories that we are trying to tell. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, honestly, that's a piece of junk because I couldn't think of anything else for why. So in other words, if you look underneath it, what that means is, for our discussion of stories, that means that the story must have progressions. We just talked about relationship progression. This means there has to be progression throughout the actual narrative. So beyond just relationship progression, you've got to have progression in the story. Not only does the guy have to come home and tell his wife how his day was, something has to happen after that. Maybe they go out to eat. Maybe they go to a movie. Maybe they just go to bed. And then the next day happens. There's progression. Something has to go from where it was to where it is and to where it is going. Without a beginning, a middle, and an end, you don't have a story, you have a statement. You're going to argue that? Great. Let's have lunch. Let's talk again. God has a big story, and that big story includes all of us. This is the paradigm that we've got for human stories, and it comes right from our Heavenly Father, who made you and me. The paradigm for human stories is a four-part paradigm: creation, rebellion, redemption, and consummation. These are all theological terms. I recognize that. I'm a theologian. I'm in seminary. I'm sorry. Please, if you have a problem with it, let's talk at the expo. These are going to be our terms that we're moving through as we're talking about narrative today and God's big story for us. Creation, rebellion, redemption, consummation. If these are familiar terms for you, that's great. That's even better. So here we are. We're on creation. Who's got a Bible with us? Brother, turn to Genesis 1:1. Read it real loud for us so that way our audio and visual people can record it.
Stand by, wake it up.
And somebody else turn to Genesis 2, 26, 27, and 28. And your translations don't matter, that's fine. We got Genesis 1?
I got the little spinning wheel thing.
Okay.
Yay, spinning wheel.
I forgot my old-fashioned Bible as well. So.
I'm pretty sure it's in the beginning God made the heavens and the earth.
Say it again louder.
In the beginning God made the heavens and the earth. Is that basically where we are?
That's basically where we're at, but if somebody could read it where we're actually
The
at.
earth was dark and without form, and that's all I've got. Let's see if we can get like a chain going.
Let's see if we can get everybody in the room to quote some part of Genesis 1. Good is in there somewhere, right? I just want Genesis 1. Yep, just
In the
one.
beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
That's it. That's the beginning.
And then you want Genesis 2:28.
I want Genesis 2:28 with verses 26 and 27.
Genesis 2 ends at 25.
That's why we got
Read the last three verses of Genesis 2.
And Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed.
That sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, Genesis 1:1 is just in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That's it.
I'm glad we have confirmation on it, regardless of translation. Well, I need to go and change my slide now, because that's incredibly embarrassing to do something. We all make mistakes, and that's good. God made it good. This is the beginning of the grand narrative, brothers and sisters. We've got sisters here. Need to include them. I'm sorry, I'm used to speaking at a shelter where there's men only. Brothers and sisters, this is the beginning of the grand narrative. That God made it, and He made it good. And it was so good, man and wife got along together, and they had no shame, no anger, there's no griping, there's no Deborah and Raymond yelling at each other. This is all good. This is the beginning of the story. God made it, He made it good. Now, we've all got different concepts for what is good. God made everything good. This means everything. Now, my list is not comprehensive. I realize that. If you want to gripe about it, point is that God made everything. What we get in Genesis 1 through 2 is we get the grand scale that we're talking about in God's big story. We have a legitimate, huge universe, world scale. This thing incorporates little things like birds, and it pertains to things like stars and moons and suns and skies and whole races of cultures. That scale. You talk about epic scale? Our God has made a world with epic scale. Everything that God made, He made it good. When you think of good, what do you think of? Give me something.
Okay. Well, what am I supposed to think with that picture?
I know, right? It's almost like there's subliminal advertising. What do you think of when you think of good? Porcelain.
Tea.
Tea.
Horses.
Horses. Coffee. How many of us said bacon this morning? How many of us said bacon when we were talking about pizza, right? Whatever it is that you think of good, now this is where we're going to get a little theological. Be careful. Watch out. I'm not going to start a controversy tonight. I know it's in our statement. That's good, right? We're going to get a little theological here. God made it good. Now, I'm not going to define what is good for you. I'm not going to do that. We don't have time. I love that as an excuse, by the way, Bob. We don't have time to define what is good. My point is, when you think of good, you know what you're thinking of. You know what is good. It's in you. God has made you to appreciate and to know and to identify what is good. Whether it's a slice of pie and some pizza, whether it's your wife, whether it's porcelain, whether it's art, whether it's a speaker who's speaking. Narcissist. We know when something's good. God started everything. When He started everything in this grand story, He made it good. So this is what we're going to do. Take the person next to you. We're going to do that thing that you hate to do at conferences. And guess what? I'm the speaker, so I don't have to do it. Fantastic. Take the person next to you. Take a couple minutes and discuss what game world, I don't care what it is, it could be a game you've made. And you just spend 5 minutes talking about the game world you've made. What game world would you want to live in or visit because of how good it is? You've got 4 minutes. Go.
However, we can focus so much on how on why because it's more on because it's something to do with places that are actually the same. Like in Vancouver, for example, you could like craft an engineering diplomacy fight. So that's great. So at least in text and subjective. Oh yeah. So if you like the the thing is, in games, we fight a lot, and it's in so many games. But would you actually kill 15 wolves in real life? Would you actually go out and kill a bunch of men? That's remember, and this is actually remember that he goes in there and no one really wants to think about the way the culture is done, everything gets too fast and it's like how far enough to play a game where you just sit there and let's say that even if I'm mowing the lawn. However, the thing is, in a lot of games, killing things is become that video. That's all we do. It's because it's called branding. Because all you do is just literally because you don't have okay, things get and that's why some things like
Yeah, we got an interactive group here. That's good. We're a bunch of gamers. Woo! And we're a bunch of believers. We should be okay talking to new people.
Amen.
All right. Give me some things to talk about. Somebody raise their hand and somebody say something.
Pokemon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. What else?
Skyrim.
Skyrim.
KOTOR. I was sharing about the Tuscany demo for the Oculus Rift.
What else?
Minecraft.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course. Who doesn't want to go and play with life-size Legos? Like, my whole life as a kid, right, was this tall. Like, when I was 1 to this tall when I was like 6. Okay, my whole life I was telling people, I want to go play with the little Legos, that's what the grown-ups play with, and now Minecraft comes out and it's like, no, if you want to be cool, go play with Duplos. Legos are so old-fashioned. But anyway, that's where we're at in culture right now. So that's good, right? God made it, and He made it good. That's the starting point of stories. That's the starting point. Something is good. Within your first couple of pages of your book, within the first couple of scenes of your movie, even if you're rolling credits, within the first couple of cinematics of your game, when you're telling your story, stuff has to be good, and then stuff has to go really bad. Really bad. God made it. He made it good. The second part of the sentence is that we broke it, and we broke it bad. Mankind broke creation, and we broke it in a really bad way. Brothers and sisters, this is where, as a preacher, we just got to talk about some of this stuff. This is just the reality of the world. Okay? Some of us in this room have had to go through miscarriages. Some of us in this room have lost loved ones to cancer. Some of us in this room are going to go home on Saturday or Sunday, and we have got serious problems, whether that's addictions, whether that's anger issues, relationship issues, got health problems, and this is way more than just you got to pop 2 Tylenol. We have real problems. We broke it so bad that all of our lives are affected. Our minds, our bodies, we're affected. We're impacted. This is the next part of the story, is that we broke it. We broke it bad. Go ahead and turn to somebody that you were just talking with. I know we were just talking about cool, fun places. But actually go and take a couple minutes, take 3 minutes, and name something about this world that is, go ahead and remember not to.
That B, I think it's B.
B? Name something about this world that you broke. Alright, so turn again, turn to your brother or sister you were talking to, Name something about this world that's broken. No? This world. Name something about this world.
Explain that.
This one, he was having this time. One thing, so, that's great. And you present the word. Hey, people, monetary systems, but monetary systems and systems are actually good. However, we have broken one of our systems ideologies. Ideologies is kind of it's because all of them unless you have a perfect understanding of what it is. Most ideologies, at least in some point, agnostic in areas, like in a place of I don't know, so I'm not even going to actually even just from that physiology, it's broken particles, like pretty much everything is broken. And then man took his
Alright, let's bring it back together.
and then people
Was that conversation harder or easier?
Easier.
In what ways was it harder?
Well, even among Christians, people's ideas of what's wrong was vary, so it was kind of hard to open up about it in the first place.
Totally. Why else would it be hard to talk about this with a complete stranger?
It makes you remind yourself of bad things that happened in the past.
Probably right. I just asked you, a complete and total group of strangers outside of sharing what favorite pizza toppings you have. So open up with somebody else who is also a complete stranger outside of the pizza toppings that you may share. And let them know something that you think is really bad. That's really awkward. You could get somebody opening up to you and confessing something huge that you did not want to find out. You could get somebody saying something like, I don't really want to participate. This is kind of a stupid exercise. Why are we even in this room and not in the room with the weeds? Okay? This world is broken. I don't have to preach that to you. You know it. We know that God made it and He made it good. We know that this world is now broken and it's broken bad. We've got things like cancer, death, funerals. I can't stress this enough, brothers and sisters. We have to put babies into the ground. It's hard for us gamers sometimes to get emotional in public. It's not hard for me to get emotional in public when we talk about that. That we have to put babies into the ground. Unemployment. There are brothers here who are unemployed, right? We all joked earlier today, none of us have money. That's why we're all Christian gamers. But unemployment is real. Pain, disability, hurt relationships. Oh yeah, and by the way, broken relationship with a perfect relationship that we used to have with God. We broke it bad. This broken world is broken. Somebody read for me Genesis 3, 17 through 19. Please tell me that there is a Genesis 3. Let me read that for us.
And unto Adam he said, Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree, of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake, in sorrow shalt thou eat of it all days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return into the ground. For out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return.
And that's all a joke. But as we just heard from our brother, sometimes satire is the best way to go. Does that sound like Monday morning or what? Not a very funny joke. Cursed is work, cursed is the ground. Stuff is going to suck because of what has happened. If I were to turn in a paper on this passage, that would be the title that I would turn in my professor. Stuff is going to suck because of this. Because of our first sin, our first rebellion against our good Creator God, we're now in a world that is broken. Our work is cursed, our play is cursed, even our procreation. Everything has shifted. You want to talk about a game changer? Genesis 3. Game changer, baby. God made it, He made it good. We broke it, and we broke it bad. This world needs to be saved. That's the point of the story that we get to, the end of Genesis 3. And the good news is, brothers and sisters, this is not new to you. And if it is, I'm glad it's new to you, actually. I'm glad to be able to be here with you today, and there are many other brothers and sisters who are here with you who can present the gospel to you today. We actually have a good part of this next part of the story, the third part of the story. First part of the story, God made it, He made it good. Second part of the story, we broke it bad. Third part of the story, Christ has come to fix it. Christ has come to fix it. Redemption, that's the third part of the story. He came born fully human. He remained fully God. He lived the perfect life. He gave Himself for His people. Brothers and sisters, that's good news. Amen? That's really good news. I don't know how many of you, like I said, how big you got with your discussion about how bad this world is when you were just sharing. Brothers and sisters, this world is really broken. Us in this room, we're really broken. We got some serious issues, people. Us, even in this room. Even those of us who are redeemed, right? We got some serious issues to deal with. And the good news is that there's actually somebody in this grand story who's actually come to make it right. There is somebody who has the power, who has the capability, who we as gamers, we call this the hero, right? He can come and He can change it. Whatever is wrong with this world, whatever got messed up, He has the power, the willingness, and He actually enjoys fixing it. That's good news, brothers and sisters. This is the part of the sermon where we're Baptists for. That's good news. Maybe that's more kind of called for Baptists. I'm sorry if I'm offending my Baptists. That's really good news. As Christ came to save us and to save it, to fix it. This is a good summary statement that I've stolen from several other people and then put it together and remade it so that way it was mine. All that was wrong, all that has been broken, is being fixed by Christ's redemptive work. He is the hero of the story, saving the world. You want to write a game story? You want to write a game story? You better have a couple of these components. You better have some good creation. You better have some brokenness in there. You better have a hero figure. Because God has made us this way. He's included us in His grand story. It's part of what makes us humans. It's part of what makes us who we are and what we are. This bigger story. We're a part of it. We can't escape it. There's good news. There is a hero. He's come to redeem it. He's not just saving us, He's saving the world. Even better news. Not only is He coming to save the world, He's included His people in the work of redeeming this world. God's people are an important part of the story. I don't know how many of you, when you were 6 or 7, you were the loser kid and you went over to your buddy's house because he had the Super Nintendo, the computer, the GameCube, the Dreamcast. Nowadays, if you're 6 years old, I don't know what's cool now. PS4, I don't know. Is anybody wealthy enough to even here to even know what that is? I don't. Anyway.
I know what it is.
There it is.
It's not out yet.
All right. So you go over there, you sit down, and you say, "Hey, bro, I'm so glad you got that new game. That's an awesome new game." And did you ever have the gaming experience where you were sitting there, someone else was enjoying it, and you never got to participate? Yeah. Okay, there's 3 of us. Wow. That explains why we're all angry gamers, and we're like, "Yeah, I'm going to keep my computer right here, and nobody can take it." It's that feeling of being left out. It's that feeling of, why is the hero in the story not including me? Brothers and sisters, one of the good pieces of reality, not just of the Christian message, that makes it sound like it's something outside of reality. One of the good things of reality, of the reality of the Christian message, is that Jesus Christ has come to save this world, and He includes you, His people, in doing what He's doing. That means playing and building better games. What our brother was just talking to us earlier about excellence, some of us might call it kick-buttedness, being awesome. That's what He's including you in. Being awesome, redemptive work, pushing things to get better, pushing things to be more like the way they should be and less like the way they are. Pushing things more towards that good of creation, the way how God made it, and less like the way how broken things are. That's actually really cool news. Jesus isn't the guy just sitting there with the controller. He wants this to be a multiplayer activity. That's for you game church guys. Consummation, all is made right. This is the fourth part of the story. All that was broken is now fixed. This might be a little anticlimactic, and it might be a little weird, and it might be a little skeptical, and it might be a little shady, and it might be a little mysterious, because we haven't experienced it yet. I don't know if anyone told you in the last 20 minutes when we were having that little chat about what is broken, but the world is still broken. We still live in a world where we have to bury babies, we have to bury people because of cancer, people want to blow other people up, people want to steal from one another. Some of us have experienced that, right? That's the world that we still live in, but it's not always going to be this way. Consummation is the fourth and final part of God's big story. All that was broken will soon be fixed. All the wrongs will be made right. Judgments come to the wicked, and healing comes to the wounded. All that is made right. There will be a day when there is no more cancer, no more death, no more tears. Brothers and sisters, we won't have to bury a baby ever again. That will be a good day. And we wait for it with excitement. Romans 8. Somebody read it. It's on the screen. You don't have to look for it.
I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. For the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who subjected it, in hopes that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom and glory of the children of God.
Liberation. Getting away from bondage. Getting away from decay. Getting into freedom and glory. Being children in a bigger family. Does that sound good to anybody else? Woo-hoo! This is where we're headed, brothers and sisters. This is where we're headed. We're headed towards this. This is the fourth and final part of the story. Now, here we go. We're still doing a presentation, right? I'm not preaching at you. I'm inviting you. Where are we at? How does this have anything to do with video games? We're at a video game conference. This isn't Sunday morning. All right. All truth is God's truth. This is Francis Schaeffer's one of his key theories. All truth is God's truth. You can't steal it. God made it. God made it good. And so anything that is good or that is true comes from God. Either your story has some of each of the biblical narrative's components. Say it with me. Creation, rebellion, redemption, consummation. Let's do it again. Creation, rebellion, redemption, consummation. If you ever wanted like a 4-point, really easy way to share the gospel with somebody, I'm not saying that's it. I'm just saying that's a really easy way to break down the Bible. Okay, I'm not trying to tell you something new. I'm telling you something radical. I'm just saying that's a really easy way to think about the greatest story of God's narrative. It's got to have all of them. Either you got some of them or you got all of them. Every story is unescapably connected to this bigger story. Why? Because God has made us in His image. Can't get away from it. Ecclesiastes 1:9. Somebody read it.
What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun.
You think you got a new idea for creative narrative and story? Good luck. It's been around the block for a couple generations. This is story structure. This is what it looks like. We can argue about it, whether it's going to be a 3-point or a 4-point. We can argue about maybe it's a finder and there's 5 or 6. We can argue if it's a trilogy like Star Wars, where are the hinges that the stories really turn on. So maybe it's a little bit different. We can argue about that. Let's talk about it over there. Let's do all that good stuff. But this is the basic story that's programmed into each and every single one of us. It's a 4-point story. We start out good. Something horrible happens. We've got to move through progression towards getting back to the way things should be. That's a story. When you've got those 4 components, or at least part of them, you've got a story. Now, I realize we're cutting short on time, so I've got a lot to get to in a whole lot of little time. So I want to leave a lot of time for questions and for interaction, so we're going to jump through these pretty quick. A whole is what has a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's Aristotle. Remember I just said things kind of the story stuff has been around for a while? How many of you were around when Aristotle was? Come on, Tim. Aristotle's been around for a while. This theory has been around for a while. Aristotle's 3-point structure, he had a 3-point structure. Story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now what I've just told you for almost 40 minutes is that a story has a beginning, a bad thing, a hero, and then a good thing again. 4 points. So am I disagreeing with Aristotle? Yes, it's okay. You can come visit us at the expo at lunch. You'll see us arguing. It's okay. A story is either a 3-point story or a 4-point story. This is the big takeaway. You've either got a 4-point or a 4-act arc, or you got a 3-act arc. We've got wonderful little headings in our culture that are permeated all through gamer culture, through movie culture, through book culture. Real easy headings to remember what a 4-point story looks like. So we're going to run through these real quick. First one is Once Upon a Time, and we're going to look at a short video telling us a narrative about Once Upon a Time. If you get goosebumps, that's okay. I hope it works. For sake of time, Star Wars, everybody. Let's give it towards That's something that is broken. Amen? Once upon a time, the story begins, and it begins in an epic way, and it tells of something that was good at one point, but now it's no longer. Right? That brings us to that second point, that reality is broken. Rebellion, right? All of these things on here, all of them. I originally had them as animation things that I had to click through, and then I was like, this is a good way for me. So it's just all up here. All this stuff has all got some component of it that says, this is the way how it used to be. It used to be good. Something has happened. This is our Once Upon a Time, the beginning of a narrative structure. I don't know if you've ever heard of any of these games, but they're all kind of big deals. And we love to play them, we love to interact with them, because God has made us to be human people that enjoy these stories, this greater narrative. There's another one for the second part. We're going to jump ahead. If you get goosebumps, it's okay. You're probably going to be able to guess my age by the games that give me goosebumps. Explain this? Anybody? Come on now.
Blackened and charred remains of Stormwind Keep. Those that escaped fled across the Great Sea.
Look at the cinematics!
The navigating in the background is a little nice.
That's water! And that game is?
Water
The subtitle
physics.
is called
The Dark Saga.
Ides of Darkness.
No, it was The Dark Saga.
Ides. Alright, our third part of the story. The third part of the story, the dice cast. These are all games, all stories that have wonderful components that speak to that reality. Everything used to be good, now it's really messed up. Some of them have got stories like Warcraft, where it's like, why are things messed up? I don't know, there's this whole race of beings that just thrive on killing things. Okay? And then like Warcraft 3 comes along and they're like, no, really, they were trying to do this to fight the demon. But anyway, the point is, this is that second point, that reality is broken, rebellion happens, there's a problem, there's an obstacle, something has happened in the story that means it needs a hero. The third part of the story comes next.
I was born.
Name again?
Skyrim.
For 65 years, I
Name the actor? Name his best role?
The last battle. You mentioned Chronicles of the Last Battle.
I have seen the
Kirk
gates
for card.
of Oblivion,
Kirk for right hand, for card left
on
hand.
which
Victor. That's Oblivion, right? Oblivion starts out with this tremendous story
through waking eye may see.
of, hey, here's what's wrong, and there's only a couple people that can possibly save it. This is like DC Comics or Marvel Comics 101. If you want to have a compelling hero, you got to have a world that's good, you got to have a bad guy that's really broken it, and you got to have somebody that's going to come back, kick some butt, and change the way how things are. If you want to talk about the redemptive themes of Duke Nukem, I'll meet you at the expo.
So, how'd you like Forever?
Our fourth part of the story is happily ever after. Right? This is a theme that we're all very familiar with. It's part of our fairy tales. It's part of everything. Again, God has made us to be a part of His bigger story. That's why these things resonate so well with the human heart. All right, technical difficulties. Awesome. It's the battle for Middle Earth, people. Jordan was just defeated. That's our heavily interactive. Battle for Middle Earth.
One or two.
I think so. So what games, turn to that person that's your buddy again. This is going to be our last little interactive thing. What games have amazing endings that right all the wrongs and bring the story to a place of glory? Try to really think about this one. This one's a tough one. Turn to that person that you've been talking to throughout the presentation.
Let's talk about Portal 2. Don't. You have. Did you? Didn't. Yes, I did. You did. Or Portal 1. I did Restoration. I used to do I actually have finished quite a few games, but more recently people are getting the things where you like find the mechanics and so that's neat. That's neat, but I care about I just play Alpha, so technically especially all of them are RTS, which has technical and the ones that I tried to play walking away in water temple. I used to be in outdoor, and so it's horrible for me. It's none of those emotions and actually just.
All right, let's come back together and let's wrap it up. So this is our theory. The theory is that God made man in His image. The reason why we've got this 4-part story embedded to all of our stories is because God made us that way. This is God's bigger narrative that's going on, and we get to take part of it. As we go across our acrostic, or is it an acronym? Story. We got scale, we got truth, we got obstacles, we got relationships. We want yesterday, today, tomorrow. It signifies progression. You want to tell a good story. You've got a kick-butt idea for a video game. And you want to be a believer, and you want to do it well. Brothers and sisters, one of my big messages and my big excitements flying all the way out here to Portland is to tell you that you guys are the new storytellers, and you guys are doing a fantastic job of it already with whatever it is that you're doing. All of the games that I put up on there today that we talked about are produced by non-Christian based companies. Brothers and sisters, the whole point of this presentation is this story is inescapable. No matter how much the deceiver, the liar, whatever we want to call him, no matter how much we want to say our enemy is trying to get rid of this story or tell this story in a bad way, God has made us to enjoy this story, to thrive in this story, to look for this story wherever we can find it. The Holy Spirit uses this story to bring people to events like gaming conventions where they can go and they can talk to the Game Church guys, where they can go to a church and they can say, hey, we've got a youth pastor that's actually played Halo, and he knows that there's actually redemptive themes in there. You guys are our gatekeepers. You guys are our storytellers. You guys are doing Christ's work right now, and when you go and you make your games, and you include in them epic stories that have beginnings, that have middles, that have ends. You guys are helping to tell that story. Now that being said, before I throw it open to questions and answers, because we're only going to use 5 minutes for that, and then we got to get ready for the next thing. All right, because we're doing okay on time, so we got a couple minutes for question and answers. Before we jump into that, I'm going to preview really quickly for you guys. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking a little bit about next-gen culture. And that requires next-gen bridge building, which I can't say this enough. I'm so happy to be here, to be with you guys. You guys are the ones that I'm learning from as I'm here. I'm going to go back to seminary. Hopefully, Lord willing, I'm going to get a PhD someday. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to be going to homeschool conferences. I'm going to be going to G3. I'm going to be going to E3. I'm going to be going to F3. I don't care where I'm going. I'm bringing this message that Jesus Christ has come to redeem this world. Gamers are a part of that. And you guys are a part of his work in this world. We're going to be talking about that a little bit tomorrow. What does that look like? And then Saturday, we're going to wrap it all up, talking some of the difficulties, some of the challenges the games present, some of the sins that they lead to, and all of that hot button stuff. That's for Saturday. So you got to hold on your horses, get excited, come back for Saturday. Questions or answers on narrative structure?
One thing that